Hello and welcome to the Green Profit Academy Pros Podcast. This show digs into the challenges in growing a lawn care and landscape business while maximizing your profit. I'm Christine Era.
And I'm Steve Bousquet. We are the green industry experts in profit, growth, and leadership. Hello, everyone. Today we have a special guest on the podcast, a good friend of mine. He's been a friend of mine for over 20 years, Bob Tunzi from Tunzi and Sons Landscaping. Hello, Bob.
Hey, Steve. How you doing today?
Good. Bob is out in Illinois, and he just told me that they're expecting 4 to 8 inches of snow. Bob no longer plows snow, right? Commercially, you're not doing that?
No, that's correct. We gave that up about 5 or 6 years ago.
And I don't think you're crying any tears over that.
No, I don't miss that part of the business at all.
So Bob and I met over 20 years ago in a peer group, and we would meet every year for about 4 to 5 days-ish and go over, annual reviews of the year and then set goals for the upcoming year. But we became really close, good friends over those 20 years, sharing struggles and challenges and victories and wins and going through life's, ups and downs personally and professionally, growing and sharing a lot. So Bob and I know each other both on a business level and a personal level. And, I kind of consider Bob the big brother that I never had. And so I'm really honored that he's with us today and sharing his knowledge and experience. So, Bob, when did you start your business, and what kind of inspired you to start in the landscape industry?
It's kind of an odd story, but it's like a lot of people's probably. But I actually worked when I was in high school. I had a friend of mine that was studying landscape architecture at U of I, and we were just friends. He had no connection to the landscape industry or anything like that, but was looking for work. And I worked with Chet one summer and worked for a landscape installer back in the early 70s. I was still in high school and didn't think about it or do anything with it. I was actually a meat cutter for a large grocery chain in the Chicago area after I went to partial college. And then I was looking for a change. And so I went to the local junior college, Joliet Junior College, and started looking at some different ideas for a career change. And I talked to one of the teachers in the horticultural program, and it kind of spurred my interest. And so I just started taking classes at night in their landscape management program. And coincidentally, I was still working, of course, supporting a young family. And then I just started doing jobs on the side, started doing landscape install jobs. I started a little different. Some people start out mowing as a teenager. I went right into the design part of it. And with my youthful energy, just started doing jobs, and I was doing them on the side. And then in 1993, I wound up getting laid off from that chain. And it was kind of the kick in the butt that I needed. And I started full-time in 93.
So you had a couple of kids and a family, and you started full-time. And I think your focus really was design, build, hardscapes was kind of your passion, still is. Yep. I think you cut grass because you kind of had to. I think all that was kind of like like plowing, kind of had to do it.
Right.
Type of deal. So design install was always your passion. So I know you're big. What, Unilock is you're kind of big? I know people, they send the Unilock guys down to take pictures of your projects and everything.
Yeah, they're one of the major players in the whole market, of course, across North America. And they're kind of the elephant in the room in Chicagoland area. There's other manufacturers, and we do use some other products. We try to offer a little bit different, but I've primarily focused with their products on hardscaping.
Which, so when you first started, what was like the largest project that you did dollar-wise?
I remember when I was still doing it part-time, and I wound up, another guy that worked at the chain that I worked at hired me to do his front landscaping on a new construction. And this was probably in 90, I guess maybe 92 or something around there. And it was like $7,000 for for this project that we did. And I was, clicking my heels and thought I, won the lottery kind of thing. And then once I started full time, I remember doing a job, and this was about 95. And we did a new construction, landscape design and sod and everything. And it was around 11,000 maybe. And it was a large job back then. We thought, wow, this is awesome. We, of course, prices are different, labor's different, everything's different. It's like trying to compare eggs right now to what they were 30 years ago. But that was, those were big jobs back then.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's the largest job you've ever done about?
Actually, we just did one last fall. We renovated a backyard in one of the suburbs here for a couple that hired us. And the final bill was like $203,000.
Nice.
For
and that's residential.
Yeah, that was a residential job. We did, it was a large job. We did about 1,800 square feet of pavers. And there was, we built a 24 by 18 pavilion with a fireplace. There's another area where there's a gas fire pit. It has an outdoor kitchen. We built a pergola and then some plantings. But it's funny. It was good. And, but it was not as intimidating as you would think. It's in our wheelhouse. It's the kind of work we do. So, I was very comfortable taking it on, and, my crew guys are very skilled. And so it's just management like anything. You just have to manage day to day what was going on, not let it get out of control, which it didn't. We actually completed it within budget and hours. And like I said, I've always been kind of hands-on. So, I always manage those jobs pretty tight just to make sure we're on track. And part of that goes to making sure, of course, that, you're doing what the customer wants and you're meeting their expectations.
Right. So $203,000 backyard landscape, right? That's awesome, right?
Yeah.
A backyard, somebody's backyard.
Yeah, I know. And I remember one time another guy that was in sales, completely different industry, but we were on a trip together, a hunting trip, and we were talking about sales. And, I started out as a technician like a lot of people did. My background is I just started doing the jobs, learning the skill in the trade. And, the business end of it, of course, which is the much more important part, is something I've spent a lot of time trying to learn and understand, and had good guidance, and including you, of course. And, but when you're doing these things, I always tried to focus on, like the trade. So learning all that business part of it was very important, of course, and learning to price your jobs right, learning how to sell. That's what I'm getting at. Like, before I was kind of intimidated by sales, but, learning how to sell to people was big too. And that certainly helped. And now it's kind of a sweet spot, quite, honestly. I enjoy that part of it.
Yeah. Learning the sales process.
Yeah, exactly. And having a process for everything, quite honestly. That's what gets you through. A good friend of mine, of course, Don Zerby, said the solution is the process, and if you have a way to do things, you can fall back on that when things aren't always going well. This is how we do it. Let's stick to what we do.
Solution is the process, right? Yeah, absolutely. Right. You got to have a process for everything. Correct. It seems to be one of the keys to scaling anything, right? And improving it, because you can always improve processes as long as there is one.
Well, that's true. And, when you look at all those analogies, they're all true. A lot of them are really true. Like you look at, pro football teams or anyone. I use baseball. You go to spring training every year. You don't just go out on opening day and start playing baseball. So, you have a practice in refining those systems. We all kind of have an off season. And during that off season is when you look at all your bookkeeping. Am I doing this the right way? How can I be more efficient? How can I get my crews to perform better on a job? So technical training, just the communication process is important, both with your team and with your customers. Understanding your financial information, so. In the beginning, I didn't focus on that part as much. I was always trying to be the best craftsman. And, one of the best things I did was joining the peer group that we were in, because that's where I met you. I met a lot of other really smart people, and they, just having those conversations. Sometimes they were conversations in the hospitality suite, or, back in the day, we both had a lot more time in our schedules, and you could just call up and talk through certain problems and come up with some ideas to fix the problem.
Yeah. We spent many hours on the phone in between sales calls when we were driving from one sales call to another sales call. And it was kind of like a unwritten rule. You would be like, okay, I'm here. I got to go. Right. So no explanation. It was like when you were driving to a sales call, you would call, somebody, or you call Bob, he'd call me. But when you showed up to your call and wherever you had to go, say, okay, I'm here. I got to go. And then you just hopped off the phone. But discussing things like, be like, hey, was my last sales call. This is what happened. These were the objections or questions they had. I closed, I didn't close, this is what was going on. And then kind of like almost like in the field coaching, like, hey, I closed this job, and this is, the good, better, best. And this is what they said. And this is what happened. And, try this and try that. And it was kind of like in the game, adjustments, like almost like a quarterback going up to the line of scrimmage and calling an audible. And we had somebody up in the skybox helping us in the middle of the season, so it was very valuable stuff.
That's a great analogy, because that's exactly what I was going to say, is like in the middle of the game, you could make an adjustment because you could call someone that you trusted, and that's the difference when you get someone that mentors you in business, that a lot of people don't have that, have that resource, is the fact that you can get honest advice, because just like they, talk about on Facebook, everybody posts all their winning life on Facebook, but they don't show all the struggle. And that's what we were able to do, was the problems, was not just talk about, hey, I just sold this big job, or, we got an award for our work or whatever. It was like, hey, I'm having a problem with a key employee, or I don't understand this on my balance sheet. How do you figure that out? And that was, very, very helpful.
Yeah. And employees, since you brought that up, I think that's one of the things that we all struggled with, and everybody might still be struggling with it. So as you grew your business, you had to hire and train. And so share some of the lessons that you learned with bringing people on board, developing them and training them. How was that journey for you?
Well, in all honesty, I have to tell you, I just don't even think to this day it's my strong suit, is bringing people on and coaching. I've been lucky. I've got some good people. You turned me on to the Clifton Strengths program. And so, once I learned one of my strengths, that was helpful, and it was bringing things together. And so I think I still use that skill. I'm able to, bring customer to the table and get them to agree to what we're going to do. I'm able to, get employees to do what we want to do and follow the standard that we have set, which is quality, of course, on our jobs. So that's pretty much, I think, what has helped me. It's still, I would say I've been lucky. I have, most of my employees are 10 years plus now. I never had that in the beginning. And I think creating a stable company financially has been a big thing, and just having an opportunity for people. And I didn't want to grow my company, to be a huge company. It just, I kind of got into this a little bit later. So I didn't start when I was 20. I was honestly in my early, to mid 30s when I started. So I kind of got a little behind on that. But, again, like to say about with the employees, I've had struggles, I think, and we work in a seasonal business. And so keeping people employed during the off season, and to that point, like what you're saying about snow, snow was not the answer for us. It was just not a big enough revenue stream that it allowed us. I know other people have that part figured out and they make it work. But it wasn't for us. So I struggled with keeping people employed, of course, during the winter. But we figured it out from there.
Yeah. I think snow is one of those things. It has to be really boutique-y, and I've turned it into boutique where we're doing all our snows basically in one town.
Right.
And it's a 3 to 5 minute drive from one end of the route to the other. Or you have to go really huge. And I know in Chicagoland, I mean, there are some huge players
Oh,
in
yeah.
that market, and I agree. I think otherwise it's a distraction, and also it's a huge waste of capital resources because the amount of money that it takes to do snow. It's $100,000 to set a truck up. So to get your money back out of that, unless you're really pushing a lot of snow, it's just not worth it. And it can become a huge distraction. And I think you're probably actually more profitable now than you were when you were doing snow, and you're way less tired starting the season off.
Well, that's the thing. Remember, we've had conversations about like efficiencies, about setting your trucks up, like you were talking about setting your trucks up or your equipment. So when you'd go to look at buying a truck, for example, if you were doing a lot of lawn care and you would be looking at a truck, well, the lawn care, and I know you've got that part figured out. You're going to set that truck up to be the most efficient when you're making the most of money, but that's not going to have a plow on it. It's not going to be the type of truck that's going to do that kind of work. And it's kind of the same even for a landscaping. When you buy, let's face it, we all have dump trucks. I mean, that's one of the main tools that any landscaper is going to have. But the type that you use, depending on the type of work that you do, if you're going to make money 9 or 10 months out, like in our area, of course, we work nine months, sometimes into that 10th month. You want that equipment to be set up to give you the best performance when you're doing that type of work. The snow was just so inconsistent, and it even lately, without getting into the whole climate thing and whatever, it's just so unpredictable. And so, I didn't like that fact. You're sitting there hoping and praying for snow, because you need to make some money. I didn't like that inconsistency, and it was really hard on me personally. It was very stressful. So it was an easy decision to say, let's not do that anymore and focus. And honestly, that's the thing is, I'm so busy right now working on designs and bids for people right now. In the old days, I didn't have a lot of that going on. But, that's just kind of a different twist too, but the marketing and all that kind of stuff but I'd rather be working on now. We're setting the table for spring, which is what we're focusing on right now.
Yeah. Hit the ground running, doing what you're really good at.
I just had a conversation with my Unilock rep the other day, and he was lamenting the fact that so many guys are still kind of in this hibernation mode, and it's February 12th. It's like we're 4 weeks away from starting production. Yeah. So, like I said, the whole spring training kind of thing and just focusing on what we do best, that's what, we kind of diverted from that.
Yeah, it's a good point. So we had Don Zerby, who does a lot of lawn care. He had his truck set up to do snow, which was a really small portion of the revenue. And then once he just got out of snow and converted to really having high functioning trucks and lawn care, profitability went up, growth went up. And it was a good transition out of snow. Yeah. And I have a snow fleet. So I have 5 trucks out of the 30 trucks that do snow, but the other 25 trucks will never see the road in the winter. Right. They won't even ever touch the road. So yeah. And we're super boutique. Like you can almost see the accounts from the other accounts. That's how close they are. All, big commercial parking lots, so long-term accounts, but even that it's getting less and less to the point where we'll be out of it one day for sure. It's just one of those things. Sure. So share some key milestones and moments of growth, and it could be emotional growth. It could be like aha moments, like with the snow, right? Like, okay, right. Like we got to get out of that, that you've had in the business over the years.
Well, and I kind of look at it, I guess, maybe let's break it into thirds. So the first part of my career, when I started late 80s, early 90s, I was just kind of flying blind. And I joined the State Landscape Association. I did some training through there, and it was helpful. And, it was helpful, let's put it that way. I always focused on, I did a lot of technical training. So I really focused on, because like you said, it was her passion, and there's nothing wrong with following your passion. And so, trying to be a good landscaper, I always wanted to create the best looking landscape and quality using the best plants, and just customer satisfaction was important. I wanted people to be happy with the work I was doing. And so it was in 2000, when I got a postcard in the mail from this peer group. And so I was curious, because at that time I was kind of doing some rudimentary benchmarking, if that's what you would call it, my numbers. And I was trying to understand how to make a budget and figure out what I needed to charge. And I responded to the postcard and I joined this peer group, and that was a big aha moment. And part of it was the fact, I hate to make it sound like that, but because I have so much respect for veterans, but we in business, you get shot at all the time, is a way to put it. And so it's a contact sport. And if you don't get the right information or the right training, it can be very painful. And financially, emotionally, stress, all that kind of stuff. And so getting into that was a big aha moment, because right from the start, I clicked with a few people, and of course you're one of them. And I just felt like part of a brotherhood, that I had somebody that had my back and I could call up and talk to and play out. And some of it in the beginning, I was just kind of whining a little bit too much. That was part of it, was just wanted someone to listen to my pain. But, we work through that too. And then you start listening and you start implementing and you start making these changes. And you had told me one time about it takes 1,000 days to make a change in something, momentous. And when you think about that, that's 3 years. And so, when you break things down and you look at it like that, it's helpful. And so, you're not going to change some of this stuff overnight. So just continually trying to learn more about how to improve, I think, was just, a process, and it was helpful. That was a big moment. And then in 2006, I guess it was, I took the plunge. I bought some property with my wife, and we built a shop. And at the time, I kind of thought that was the key to success, and that wasn't necessarily. It's certainly been a good move, and it's been helpful. But I did it more emotionally than I did from a strong financial standpoint. I didn't really analyze everything. But as well as I do, most successful business people, they have a lot of persistence. They keep going no matter what. And that's always gotten me up. You get up when you don't want to get up. You get out of bed, you go to work, you stay late. You work on Saturday or Sunday. You do what you have to do because no one's coming to your help, So it's just a big, important thing. And I've always been stubborn. So, you tell me I can't do it, I'm going to figure out a way to do it. So Those are some of the aha moments. And then, like part of learning how to run a successful business is to understand that you don't always have to sacrifice your personal life to have a successful business. That's been a really hard lesson for me to learn, and to be able to turn off business. It's not everything. It's like what's the point? You could say you're the most successful business person, but if you don't have success in your personal life, having a family, having friends, things like that, it's kind of wasted on,
Yeah, it's kind of what's the point?
Exactly.
Yeah, if you're miserable or lonely, or what's the point, right?
Right.
Of doing all that, and everything else is horrible. And we've seen that. We've seen people go through that, right? And they turn around one day, and they're like alone in a 4-bedroom, 3 bath house, and no one's there.
Correct.
And it's a horrible thing to see.
Yeah.
And they chase a dream that ends up being empty.
Right.
They're grasping air. It's really horrible to watch. So definitely, finding the peer group and the consulting and coaching, and it kind of really was a special time. And looking back at that, we all showed up to Richmond, Virginia, not knowing anybody. And it was risky. And it was like, we all showed up very vulnerable.
Right.
And very willing to learn. And I see, your number 5, Clifton's strength is learner, right? And so you're very willing to learn. And we were all sharing and helping each other, but kind of like we were all finding our own ways, but finding it together. And that group was really unique. And when we ended up leaving, that the guy who ran it sold it, and it was not ever going to be the same. We had kind of done what we had joined to do and accomplished what we had joined to do. There was about 6 of the original people left that had joined, and over 20 years people had come in and left and come in, and it had spun, but there was about 6 of us left that had started from year 1. So it was a very, very special group. I was pretty honored to be part of that group, because 20 years together plus with the same group of people in business, considering that, most businesses don't make it to 20 years, but to be together with the same group of people through that is pretty impressive.
Well, that was one thing I found out, Steve, about like being in there was I was always impressed with the people. There was so much integrity in a lot of the people, which is personally important to me. And, I met people that's what I mean. That was one of the biggest traits that they had, was they just had integrity, and it was something to admire and to listen. I felt very comfortable listening to them because they weren't trying to get rich quick. They really cared about their business, their employees, their customers. They were just trying to make it better for everyone. And that's something to be admired. And so I was very comfortable listening to people like that.
Yeah. It was such a huge part of my life, personally, professionally. And some people who are not in that organization, and some who are in it still, with the new owner, they're some of my best friends to this day.
Yeah.
Even though they live far away, and I don't see them that often, when I do see them, I do talk to them, it's right back to, that best friend or very good friend relationship. So important, because, and you and I have talked about this. It's hard to talk to other people who don't own a business about business or even life, because like you said, working Saturday and Sunday, they don't understand that. Working 12 hours a day or 14 hours a day, they don't understand that. Going without a paycheck for 2 weeks or 2 months, they don't understand that. Yep. What did you do to become successful in business? Whatever it took. They don't understand that.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
So they have that employee mentality, and it's hard to, what is a 3-week paid vacation or paid sick time? What is that? Right.
Right.
So it's hard for other people to understand that. So being around other business owners and other people who have that same kind of mentality and experience, it's very supportive, and it's very fulfilling.
That's what I felt. I always felt a lot of support with the people that I met, and from being in this group. And then, not to keep on that same subject, but that's what I mean. It was important to have people that were going through similar situations, because they understood the highs and the lows, and that's how that bond forms, is you have something to share, and it was a good thing.
Yeah.
But, like to the point, you just continually keep learning. And so when that vehicle became where it wasn't as important, or that's the wrong word, when it wasn't giving you, there was people that were asking more questions. There were deeper questions. And that's a good way to put it. We were just looking for more information, because we had kind of learned how to do some of the basics. And so now you were like, okay, I want to take my company in a different direction, or I want to grow, or I want to understand, different aspects of how to do things. And so you reach out in other directions to get that information and data.
Yeah. And I mean, it enabled me to visit, 50 companies, because part of it was you could go visit the companies in the group, and not everybody. I was probably one of the most aggressive visitors in the group. I tried to visit at least 3 to 4 and sometimes up to 8 companies in the most aggressive year to go visit other owners. Sometimes one a year or 2 a year, depending on what was going on. But I really reached out and visited a lot of people in their businesses, sometimes multiple people in a year, and repeat, but unique businesses, at least 50. And I learned a ton. Sometimes I learned what not to do, or what I didn't want my business to look like, or, I would take one thing away that I could bring back and really implement. So it wasn't always like, wow, everything was amazing and I have to do this, redevelop my whole company, but it was a thing here and a thing there. And sometimes it was lifestyle, like what I wanted to bring back and have my personal life look like or not look like. So, it was always learning. And I will say that it did help me, really encourage me to get into Clifton Strengths, because one of the things that I learned from that group was, and it kind of was like, you would see some people that would kind of come back with the same problems or issues 10 years in a row. Mm-hmm. And it always bothered me. And it wasn't like, it wasn't on the group. It was the thing, like a lot of times they would get advice from the group or from whoever, and they couldn't make the changes because they were getting the very best advice that we could give them and help them with, but it wasn't speaking to their strengths and talents. So they couldn't do it.
Sure.
So that's why I love Clifton Strengths so much, because now it's a tool that says, hey, what are your strengths and talents? And how can you use your strengths and talents to uncover the best thing that your strengths and talents can do? Right. And that was frustrating for me, because somebody would say, hey, this is what you should do. And I could see it was the best thing to do, but I couldn't do it because my strengths and talents just couldn't enable me to follow through with it. Yeah. And then I would feel like inadequate, or I wasn't disciplined enough or smart enough. And then I would feel like a failure and I wasn't enough. And I would try it again and again. And then, so I was like, now that I know, like, okay, hey, this is what I need to accomplish, and what strengths and talents can I use to accomplish that, and aim those strengths and talents. And then I can get it done much quicker. It's a game changer. So, yeah. But at the time we didn't know that. We didn't have that tool. And we were all really trying to help everybody the best way we could. So it wasn't like we knew it and we weren't using it. We were trying to help with what we knew and what we could do at the time.
Yeah.
Core Growth Strategies provides business growth management solutions through cloud accounting, bookkeeping, and strategic business consulting programs. Our team works with small businesses in lawn care and landscape and trade industries throughout the U.S. We increase our clients' business acumen by creating business performance transparency through financials and strategic advisement based on industry best practices and benchmarks. Our experienced team provides support, guidance, and coaching, thereby allowing our clients to connect with viable data and discover their own solutions. Core Growth Strategies programs and services are designed to get your business from where it is now to where you have always dreamed it to be. Visit us today at coregrowthstrategies.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Don't miss our exclusive limited time podcast special. Just mention promo code GPA Pro to any member of our team during your complimentary consultation, or enter the promo code on our site when you sign up for one of our online programs. That's promo code GPA Pro.
So it was good. So the 2006, you built the shop. I remember the shop.
Yeah.
It was kind of a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. I mean, from a standpoint of operational, of course, having, we bought 10 acres. A little bit, it's not far from our market, our main market, it's really not far at all. And so, operationally wise, having that space, I was able to set it up. I have a holding area for plants. I have material bins. I have, big enough shop space we can pull equipment in and work on it. I had plenty of office space, all that kind of stuff. But it was a distraction from the business because I didn't do enough research on the front end. And when I first got in there, I had some issues with the county. They were fixable, but it was just, I didn't know honestly what I was doing. And so I just kind of jumped in before I really had a grasp of what to do to build this. But in the end, that persistent, stubborn part works out because that's what we work through it. And it was basically some issues that the county wanted us to do because they said you need to do this to make it up to code kind of thing. And we worked through all that. And of course, it becomes a pretty good asset. It's long since been paid for, and now personally we own the property and the building, and it'll be a nice little asset in our retirement. So,
Yeah.
But it was a distraction. It really was for a while, and it kept me from focusing on the business. So it took a couple years to get through that, but then it became more of an asset again. So if you're ever going to do that, do your homework before you jump into something like that.
I remember Russ bringing that topic up. You got very defensive and mad.
Well, I have since learned about myself. That's the thing is, nobody ever wants to look stupid. And I was always trying to do the right thing and thought I had stuff figured out. So yeah, I would get quite defensive because I felt at the time when I was going through that I really screwed up, and I didn't want to do that. But
right. I was on your side. I was in your corner, but retrospectively, he was like gently trying to say like, hey, slow down, keep your head up. Right. Look around, swivel, put your head on a pivot and look around to make sure, nothing's coming after you. He was trying to warn you, but it was very interesting because that's what he was trying to warn you about. But I was right there with you going, what's he saying? What's he saying to Bob?
Right. Well, one of the big things that's always been hard for me too is, my wife has been one of my best advocates and best source of information if I would listen to her. But I would take everything personally. It's just my personality. So if a customer didn't hire me, I would take it personal. If an employee quit or, did something, I would take it personally. And you know what? I've read so much stuff since, and it's true, is we spend way more time thinking people are thinking about us than people actually do. So that's a good piece of advice to younger people is, don't worry so much about what people think because, they may in the moment think something, but they're not wasting their time or, they're not thinking about you and what's going on. It's just not that big a deal in their life.
Yeah. No, they're not thinking
that much about it. And that's why, one of the things like we're saying with Clifton Strengths is good is instead of always trying to fix yourself, if you take your strengths and you work through your strengths, you already have that armor, use it. And so that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then you built the shop in 2006. We had a little distraction with the county. And then 2007 came and things, it was a shoot show and things got really tough. And then the economy was like unbelievably difficult and real estate. And, we had to work through that. I don't know. I think in 2007, 2008, we talked a lot. I remember getting home and, having 15, 20-minute phone calls, you and I, in my driveway before I went in my house. Like it was 2007, 2008 were really difficult years.
They were,
because it was hard to close. I think our close ratios went down 15, 20%. People weren't buying. But we all made it through it. And we came out on the other side better for it. And I think that's what we were all talking about that, like, hey, because we know our numbers, we have our business models correct. We know what our ratios should be for equipment, labor, overhead. We're going to come out better. And a lot of businesses did not survive 2006, 7, 8, 9. And, because we were a group together, we had each other lean on. We had good advice. Most of us came out way better for it.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of guys, when I say a lot, I mean, really a lot of guys, actually, their businesses kind of grew through that. Guys that really knew numbers. And a lot of it was lawn care companies. It was renewable services. I mean, we dropped like 30% in revenue in 2008 or 9. It was scary times. We were like basically begging someone to hire us. But, some of those principles that you start with, if you have the right ones, like, just like I said, focus on customer service, do what you say you're going to do. If you make a mistake, fix it. Um, we had some loyalty from some people that kept us alive. They hired us and we were happy to go work for them. And what was helpful too is just keeping a handle on, debt. We had some, of course, but like a lot of companies, but it didn't crush us, And so, but I mean, in all honesty, I just wasn't making a lot of money. We didn't make a lot in salary. We paid our bills, we paid everybody, so it's one of those cases. In some ways, we were the last to get paid. And so, but learning, of course, like, of course, you're big on the profit first. And that was another big moment, was learning. And it's really kind of basic when you look at, you certainly know it better than I do, but the whole profit first system is not complicated. It's just allocating money in the right areas. Same thing, kind of, rather than making emotional decisions, you allocate money to the right resources. And of course, the owner is one of those that you allocate money to. So paying yourself is a big part of it. So that was another big moment, was learning that. And learning how to, and that's what I mean, like, just when I first started doing that, working with Profit First, it took a lot of stress away, quite honestly, because I had money in a tax account. I had money in the winter account. I had money in different categories. So, when those bills came up, I got the money, it's in my account, and that was very helpful. So, understanding the financial part of your business is huge, huge.
Yeah. And I like you sharing that, because it's interesting. So, it's only 5 or 6 accounts for Profit First, right? And
Right.
What's interesting is we're already going to be paying our taxes, our material, our labor, ourselves, right? But when we do Profit First, it's just in a more strategic way, and we're relieving the stress. So you're going to be making those payments, but you can either do it with intention and with less stress, or with less intention and more stress.
Right.
You're paying it either way.
Perfect way of saying it. Perfect way of saying it.
Yeah. It's just a choice. So, and if you're not changing, you're choosing the stress.
Correct.
So it's really, you're paying it either way.
Yeah.
And I agree that and I'm going to share a chart with you. I'll get it to you this week, and you'll see where we started Profit First, and you'll see the growth in the company. And we were only able to grow that way because Profit First, the money was always there in every account that we needed.
Sure.
And you'll see this chart, and it's graphically, visually epic.
Yeah. I would love to see that.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. So yeah, Profit First definitely takes that pressure off. Share with me a little bit about, you touched on the, like, private life or personal life, like making sure that you have time, that we're just not working ourselves to death to work. So how did I don't like to call it work-life balance. I like to just call it intentional life living.
Well, I'll be honest too, I still struggle at times. It's just, when you have a business, it's kind of like, it's a big part of your life. When you have a small business, I would say, because in my case, I'm kind of a small business. And so I don't have middle management. I don't have a lot of people to delegate. I have great field people. I have an office manager and myself. And so a lot still falls on me. It's just kind of the way I've rolled through my career. And, I never grew my business to the size where I had middle management. Not that would solve all the problems, but I think, it would help at times to be able to get away for a bit. And if you had capable people, they could keep everything running week to week or day to day kind of thing. But so I'm being honest, it still has been a struggle trying to balance personal life, because when you work in a seasonal business, it's not like I can recover if I don't have a good quarter or whatever. So I have to, and that's the thing, it's coming up, so without using the wrong language, I always say that, what is going to hit the fan, and you can just see it. And, tracking, I'm getting a little off in the weeds, but I mean, tracking has helped, because, I remember standing in my office, looking out the window in a snowy March, talking to you about the phone's not ringing, And so this is all pre-learning better marketing and all those kinds of things. Because I got to tell you, like right now, I'm just amazed at how much interest and how much leads are coming in, through December, through January. It's crazy, but it's great because we're building backlog. So back to the balance thing, when the season starts, you have to, I always felt like you just got to be focused on, the work. So it's hard to balance, if you've got kids that have soccer in April, because that's a key time, of course, when you're going. When I started in business, my kids were older. So I didn't have as much problem with getting to soccer or baseball or things like that. But I'm married too, so I have a wife, and you have to try to, maintain all that relationship. And it's just an area where I've struggled with at times. I try to make sure that I have time for that part of my life. You have to be intentional, like you're saying, and make it as important as you can too.
Yeah, it's I have to schedule everything. If it's not scheduled, it doesn't get done in my life. Things just don't happen. I have to have it on a calendar, and I actually run 2 calendars. I have a Google Calendar and an Outlook calendar, so things get put on both calendars, and I'll even run paper calendars, so I see everything all the time. And they're identical and everything, but just I have double reminders and everything's around. And I have to schedule everything. And making sure that I have it always in front of me all the time. Yeah. And you've been married to Pat for how long? About
October, it was 27 years.
27 years. So, and being married and to someone in business takes an independent woman, someone that definitely is a strong, independent person. So, I've always noticed that when I've been around other business owners, typically because the business owner usually is not around.
Right.
And not only time wise, but usually emotionally, right. They're somewhat absent. And I have, I'm there too. My wife is pretty independent as a person. So that's just what it is. And that's what I mean, the balance. It's really, it's really difficult to have a business and be an employee that might have that employee mindset. So, and even now, both of us could have been retired by now or not working as much as we do. And yet here we are.
Yes.
So there we go.
Here we are.
I just had that conversation earlier today, but here we are. So that's just who we are. That's the cloth that we're cut from, the mold that we're sprung out of. And that's our life story. All right. So challenging project or client that taught you an important lesson.
So, so much of my memory, not to overdo it, is got to do with conversations I've had with you. Because as you said, for people that don't know the two of us, know that we talked quite a bit for as long as we've known each other. We met in, I guess, 2000. And so pushing 25 years. I remember I had a customer, and this was back in that time frame. We went and planted some trees for him. And the customer called me up. He was unhappy with the trees, and he went ahead and he cut these trees. He cut all the branches off because he was expecting like lollipop trees, and maybe it was a poor, you learn, and I still learn all the time, Steve, communication is the key. And so maybe I didn't communicate well enough what he was actually going to get. And so he went ahead and chopped these trees into round balls, but then he wanted me to come and take them back and exchange them. And I politely refused and told him, I can't take these back, and you cut them, they're worthless, And I would get all worked up over, because I was trying to please the customer. But you told me that guy has probably been driving people crazy since he was 4 years old. And it was a lesson well learned. And to this day, I just emailed a customer yesterday and told him that, fast forward to yesterday, I emailed a customer, it was a difficult customer, and told him we wouldn't be servicing his property this year. And of course, he was, butthurt and wanted to know what was going on. And I just politely told him I thought somebody else would be able to service him more what he wants. So a big lesson is learning that you don't have to work for everybody. I'm not the right fit for everybody. Of course, when you're first starting out, you'll take any job, anybody, you're just thrilled somebody wants to hire you. But there's people that no matter what you do, they're not going to be happy. And you have to get rid of them as fast as you can because they are a total distraction. They demoralize the crew. Your teammates don't want to go to that property and work. They call up the office and, berate the office people, and you just can't please them. So not every customer is your customer. And that was a big lesson to learn about customer service.
Yeah, that's great advice, right?
Yep.
And one of the things that, me and Bob used to do was be careful not to take too much work home if we need to really vent to each other about a customer or an employee, because our wives didn't really deserve to hear about it. So we would use each other to vent and not our wives, because our wives married, they married us, not our business.
Correct.
And they don't want to hear about the crazy customers or our, crazy employees or whatever. They didn't marry that version of their spouse. They married, the guy or the woman. They didn't marry the problems. So yeah, I remember that story. Yep. And he's probably still driving somebody else crazy with whatever.
Well, and even to carry that just a little bit further, it's the same thing with there's people that are going to constantly beat you up on price and stuff like that. So, one thing that's been helpful, there's been a lot of things been helpful, but of course, getting back to the baseball analogy is getting up to bat a lot is good, because if you strike out previously, if you're coming up to bat, soon, you have another chance to get a base hit, to get a double, a home run, whatever. And so when someone tells you no, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It doesn't mean your work is priced wrong or anything like that. It just means they didn't want to hire you. And so, good marketing helps, because then you're appealing to a certain type of people that are going to hire you, people that are hiring you for your skill, your quality, your service, all the things that I feel like an educated consumer wants. And getting good reviews has been helpful. People mention that all the time to us. Your reviews. I was on 2 sales calls yesterday. Complete strangers. Yeah, you got really good reviews. It directs them to you.
Right.
You're a different company, and so to that point, like I said, not everybody is your customer. And if you focus on, it's like you can fish anywhere, but if you fish the sweet spot, you're going to catch bigger fish.
Right. Yep. Great advice. Not everybody is going to be your customer. That's super, super good advice. Yep. And that takes time to learn who your customer is, right?
It does.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Bad customers are such a drain. It's a mental health issue I have found in my company to deal with bad customers or disrespectful customers, because it will beat them up, emotionally, psychologically. They bring it home, they bring it back to work the next morning, it spreads out, and you're not making any money off these bad customers anyways.
No.
So you're losing money. They're poisoning your employees. They bring it home to their spouses, their kids. I mean, it's just a horrible,
that customer yesterday. We've been doing lawn care for this guy for 6 or 8 years or whatever, and he just does a basic program, but he'll call 3 or 4 times a year. This is going on, that's going on. He had fungus last year. We diagnosed it. We recommended a fungicide treatment. He told us it was too expensive. What do you want me to do? You're asking our advice. We're giving you advice and you're not taking it. So
yeah,
I can't do anything else for you. And I don't want to listen to you complain if you're not going to listen to our solution. I mean, so
everybody had fungus last year. I think last year if you made it through the lawn care season of 2024, everybody had fungus. It was all across the country. It was the toughest year, one of the toughest years ever. We had high humidity, rain in the middle of the summer. And it was everywhere. And, a lot of people are going to lose customers and pick up new customers because of that fungus issue.
Right.
But they don't want to listen. They don't want to pay. They just want to complain and whine. Right. And yeah, it's just, it's a brutal. And it's always, and then he'll get somebody else. We had a customer cancel yesterday, and they're like, my lawn care manager's like, hey, this person canceled. I'm like, oh my gosh. Who am I going to get to message me on Sunday night about the 3 pieces of crabgrass that she has along the driveway in the middle of August? Right. She's got like a 90-foot long driveway, and there's like, I don't know, 3 pieces of crabgrass every year, because the husband keeps always like, I don't know how he always has to drive up on the side of the driveway. After he does that for months and months, by August, he just, whatever, that we end up with 3 pieces of crabgrass that we just end up, I think you can pull it. But anyways, I don't know who, I'm sure I'll get a new customer that can message us in on Sunday night about their 3 pieces of crabgrass. Sure. But then she makes a huge, huge deal out of it. I give you referrals. I can't believe this on my 18,000 square foot lawn that I have 3 crabgrass plants. But yeah, and then she calls and leaves a message Monday morning before we get to work that on everybody's extension. And then no one's gotten back to her by 8:10. Yeah, go away. We should have got rid of her years ago. All right. So a proud moment or major success story, Bob?
It's probably a little bit both professional and personal, is that, I guess, recognition for our work. We've won several awards for our work, and that's been satisfying, because you want to be, you get recognized by your peers, and so those are proud moments. Proud moments are little things too, like I remember like seeing employees, buy a new car. So to translate that, I guess it means like you're seeing, or, buy a house or do different things. And when you look at, that's why it's like so gratifying, small businesses, like they say, it really is the heartbeat of this country, and it's like people go out there every day and that's the thing, like when we bought our property, you're signing on that, you're taking that risk, personally. And then when you see the rewards, they're really sweet. So, seeing that like the employee is advancing in their personal life because of the sweat that you put in, selling work, getting people to hire you, and providing, quite honestly, income for them, and then their kids are going to college and stuff like that. So seeing all that progress is a proud moment. Personally, it's, I don't know that I would have got where I would have like working somewhere else. Like, it's proud that even though it was the bane of my existence for a while, but, buying the property, paying it off, having that asset personally, has been a big thing. The fact that I never even knew what retirement looked like, and, I'm closer to it than other people. And of course, and so, being the fact that through the efforts of working, running this business is providing me with the opportunity financially to say, you know what, it's time for another chapter in my life. So I'm kind of proud of that too.
Yeah. Yeah. The employee part, watching them drive decent cars, buying houses, having successful lives, and not having to go through their life alone, is a big part of owning a small business, being part of it.
That's what I mean about the integrity of most business owners that I know personally just have a lot of that integrity, and that's the thing, they do care about the welfare of their employees and their families. So that's gratifying.
Yeah, very gratifying. Yep. How has the landscape industry changed over the years for you?
Gosh, it is just, the first thing that comes to mind is just so sophisticated. I remember when that term outdoor living kind of came on, and I don't even know when that was. Is it 20 years ago or whatever? But I mean, as I said, for someone to sit there and put, the first house I bought was $42,000. For someone to put $200,000 into a project, and there's projects I haven't personally done, but I know people do more, of course. So doing these jobs, and that's it's kind of our sweet spot, but it's just kind of where the trend has gone is people want this elegant outdoor space. And so it used to be, we would do a brick patio and, maybe a little bit of planting or something like that. Well, now it's kitchens and fireplaces and pergolas and pavilions and TVs and, built-in grills and all, so, it's just gotten sophisticated. And there's, in seeing all the, of course, technology changes, there's so much great software out there, both for, say, for example, designing, showing customers what you're going to do in their property, along with all the management software that's out there as far as, tracking, helping build a budget, all the great software that's out there to help a company. There's like more tools to use than a shovel and a wheelbarrow that there was when I started. And social media, of course, has been huge. Being able to showcase, the old days of putting flyers out, you did it, I did it. We all did it.
Yeah, we did.
Door hangers, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, having social media in your tool chest is huge because, you can reach your customers, through that medium. That's really been a big thing in this industry.
Yeah, a lot of changes. Yeah, programs and social media and the expectations of the clients has been huge. I remember doing my first patio. It was like a 10 by 10, and now it's a whole different world out there.
Well, and I don't know if it's, I guess it's a little bit, I'm trying to phrase it the right way, but that's the thing is I talk to people in business and I tell them that expectations, I don't know why, I haven't quite figured that out, but like since COVID, expectations have gotten way higher on what we're, supposed to be delivering to a customer. And so that's been a little hard to deal with. We something else to manage, because expectations can be super high. And sometimes I talk about the Amazon effect, if you will, and it's like, we live in a society now where, and I take advantage of it too. It's super convenient. You can sit there in your easy chair and, 2 clicks and you're going to have something on your doorstep, but not everything works that way. And so, when you have clients that expect that you can deliver what we do, in such a short time and with ease, you have to get them to understand, we're custom creating something. It's not going to be as seamless as it can be to order something from Amazon. So managing those expectations is a new challenge in our industry.
Yeah, that is for sure. You have to give them little dopamine hits along the way.
Exactly.
You really do. You have to map out the journey and then give them little dopamine hits. Because, just thinking about getting material excavated and removed and then new material, triaxles of material delivered, and then, placement and compaction. And then it's just the whole thing that they've never seen before. And that's why I think some videos showing them how much work is involved. Because, like HGTV was popular, but they would never show bases being set.
Right.
They would show some excavation. Then next thing you know, they were laying the final 3 bricks. And it was always,
and it was all done in 2 days.
Yeah. all the, in a 1 hour show,
Yeah, we hate it. We hate
it was always funny.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Well, hey, Bob, I want to thank you so much for being on today's podcast. You gave some awesome advice. I love not everybody's your customer, and recognize that and get away and end that relationship as quick as possible. I want to thank everybody for joining us today and listening to the podcast. And we'll look forward to you joining us on the next podcast. Thanks again,
Steve.
Bob.
Great talking to you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Green Profit Academy Pros Podcast,
the show that digs into the challenges of growing a lawn care and landscape business while maximizing your profit.